Well, everyone, the Apple Watch Series 4 is one of those Apple Watches that I generally think is one of the most used products that I personally use because it is my go-to Apple Watch. It is the one that I've been using probably for the last 2 or 3 years now, to be honest. It's been a very solid watch. It's done everything I wanted to throw at it. I will say though, some sad news. It is kind of coming to its last leg. I don't know if it's going to be getting another version of watchOS, so I will have to be updating my watch at some point very, very soon. But this thing was a trooper. It stood the test of time for a long period of time for me. And I generally think that if this thing could still get software updates, I would still be using this thing forever. For a lot of things I do with my watch, this thing knocked it out of the park. So let's see how this thing holds up throughout the remainder of this year. Now, if you want to pick up some Apple Watches, I would recommend buying this year. Links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of these Apple Watches, the big thing here is that Apple actually gave us the capability of having a bigger sized Apple Watch than the year before this, which was 2017. So these two ones came out in 2018, and the two sizes this thing came out in were 40 and 44 millimeter sizes. This was a very good change that Apple made because it increased the size of the display without having to increase the size of the watch for the most part. So the display is bigger, and even now when I compare this thing against the current generation Apple Watches, there's definitely a pretty big difference between the displays. The newer ones are so much better, but this one, when I'm not comparing them, I genuinely don't feel like there's that big of a difference. I feel like the screen is very big, and although there's still a little bit more bezel on this one compared to the newer ones, I'm not really complaining about it. I feel like this one is still plenty of, good for me. It gets fairly bright, and it gets the job done for pretty much everything I kind of throw at it, which is really nice. And this is an old Apple Watch too. Just think about the newer ones. Now, you're still getting the digital crown on the side. You're still getting the side button as well. So those things are really, really cool to have. You're getting the bands around this Apple Watch too. So you can go ahead and detach and reattach these bands. The cool thing is these bands are interchangeable between all the Apple Watches. So even though I have my Apple Watch Series 4, when I go ahead and buy a used Apple Watch Series 7 or Series 8, I know that I can just pretty much go ahead and just take out this band and attach it to my next generation Apple Watch and then just kind of move on with my life. That's a very nice thing and a nice feeling to have. So I don't have to constantly worry about, oh, my Apple Watch bands and accessories aren't going to work. It's not the case. The accessories are pretty much 100% going to work. And that's a really cool thing that I don't really have to worry about, to be honest. So that's another really cool thing going on there. But on the exterior, I'll definitely tell you, I'm a massive fan of the way this Apple Watch looks, and it's fairly durable as well. Like I said, I've been using this thing for the last couple of years, and I bought it used at that time as well. I don't have any cases or screen protectors on this thing, and I bash this thing. I do not baby this thing at all. I drop this thing all the time. I scratch it. I push it against its limits all the time, and it still works. It still turns on, but I've never had any issues with my Apple Watch. I've never had a software issue, no hardware issue, nothing. This thing has just been so dependable for me, and it's probably been more dependable for me than my MacBook and my iPhone. There's not too many things that can go wrong on my Apple Watch, but that was a very cool thing I never really realized, is that even with my previous Apple Watches, not too many issues, this thing has been very, very reliable. Now, I would also say from what I do with my Apple Watch on an everyday basis, I'm not this power user. I'm not using my Apple Watch for everything across my life, and I don't have the cell model either. I have the regular GPS, that I have to connect to my phone all the time. The thing with this Apple Watch is that for everything I do with my watch, it's perfectly fine. This thing, obviously I use it to track my workouts. That's pretty much the big thing. Whenever I'm running or, exercising and all, I use it to track the workouts that I'm basically doing. Also, on top of that, I basically check notifications. So if I get a FaceTime call or a phone call or a text message, I'm checking my Apple Watch all the time, so I'm checking those notifications because it vibrates me. So I check those, and that's kind of it. Everything, I don't really do anything else, and I check the time and everything, but I'm not using any sort of applications on my Apple Watch. I don't even listen to music on my Apple Watch anymore. I don't check my heart rate, or I don't really even check settings. I don't do anything else on my Apple Watch, and that's all I do. So I think from that perspective, it kind of makes sense why I'm still able to use these older watches and still have a really, really good time. And I would say, if you're coming from no Apple Watch, if you're coming from no Apple Watch at all, even going up to an Apple Watch Series 3, which is one generation older than this thing, which is a terrible Apple Watch in my opinion right now, is a really big difference and definitely worth it. But the Series 4 is the Apple Watch I would recommend a vast majority of people to go and upgrade to. If you're coming from no Apple Watch at all, probably for the next 2 or 3 years, you're still going to be perfectly fine with something like the Apple Watch Series 4. I think this is an excellent Apple Watch, and you genuinely cannot go wrong with it at all. If you have the money, definitely I'd recommend going up to the Series 5 or Series 6. Definitely the Series 7, I think, is a really good middle ground of getting a new generation Apple Watch without having to spend the crazy amount of money. But I definitely will tell you, my experience with the Apple Watch Series 4 has been solid. I've had a really good time with it, and I'm genuinely very, very excited about the future of these particular watches, because if it gets one more version of software, I'm definitely going to be keeping it this year as well. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.